Hey guys, it's me, Carolyn Scott-Hamilton, the Healthy Voyager, and welcome to another holiday edition of the Healthy Voyager's Global Kitchen. Today we're making a vegan shepherd's pie, and it's perfect for this time of year because you can make it ahead of time, you can put it in the freezer. It's a really easy dish to make and always have on hand for out-of-town guests to have to deal with your busy schedule because you still got work, you gotta go shopping, you gotta deal with the kids and family, so it's always nice to have something on hand that you can toss in the freezer and just reheat. And it's really perfect because you can use leftovers to make it. If you just had a big holiday meal and you have mashed potatoes left over and other fixins, you just toss it in the pot, toss it in the dish, bake, and you're good to go. So I'm going to tell you what you need. You're going to need 8 cups of mashed potatoes. So whatever kind of mashed potatoes you have on hand, if you want to make them fresh, if you want to use instant mashed potatoes, I tend to use my garlic rosemary mashed potatoes for this because it's perfect for this time of year. Then you're going to need 1 bag of vegan ground beef. I use the Beyond Meat ground beef. You can also use lentils if you don't want to use a meat substitute. Then you need 2 carrots diced, 1 cup of onion, white or yellow sweet onion, a half a can of corn, a half a can of peas. You can use frozen as well, and you can use fresh if you like. We're going to use 1 cup of vegetable broth, 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 teaspoons of tomato paste, some fresh rosemary and fresh thyme. Then you're going to use some vegan Worcestershire sauce. That's really going to give it a little flavor. Then some minced garlic, about a tablespoon of olive oil, and then salt and pepper to taste. Okay, let's get started. So we're gonna get our pan ready up around medium heat, and then we're gonna toss in our olive oil. Again, if you don't wanna use oil, you can use vegetable broth or water. Water sauteing is just as good, but you know, it's the holidays, you can be a little decadent. So we're gonna get the pan nice and hot. And then we'll start with a version of a mirepoix. A mirepoix is usually celery, onions, and carrots. That's kind of the base for a lot of soups, things that you saute first. But we're not doing celery this time in this shepherd's pie, so we're doing kind of a half of a mirepoix. So we're gonna do the onions, get those guys started. And the garlic, because doing the aromatics first when you saute releases the flavors and gets them nice and tender. And then we're gonna toss in the carrots and let these guys saute up. We're gonna wait till the onions are a little bit translucent but still a little crunchy. Right, we're gonna turn the heat down just a little bit. Onions are looking good. Once you start to smell the garlic and the onions, you know that they're sauteing right to the right spot. All the yummy flavor is releasing. Now we're going to go ahead and put in our ground meat. You can also substitute lentils, which is fantastic. It gets nice and soft, really delicious in a shepherd's pie. Again, it's the holidays, so we're going to be a little more decadent. But what I love about these Beyond Meat crumbles is that they're soy-free, they're gluten-free, and they're made out of pea protein. So they're packed with protein. It tastes great, and there's really no junk in it. So if you're looking for a good alternative, this is the good stuff. And of course, if you're celebrating the holidays with all sorts of people, this is a great way to introduce people into vegan cooking because it's kind of tough to tell the difference. So it's tasty, it's flavorful, and you can kind of pull the wool over some people's eyes. All right, so what we're gonna do is add in our flour because this is gonna make a little bit of a roux, which is gonna make the sauce thicken. That's gonna make it nice and creamy when we put it inside the pie. So we're just gonna lightly dust it. And I've turned down the heat a little bit because we don't want it to stick to the pan, although once we put the veggie broth in, it'll deglaze the pan anyway, but try to be cautious of that because you'll lose a lot of that yummy flavor stuck to the pan. Make sure all the flour is mixed in and dissolving. And once we've got that, we're gonna toss in our tomato paste, which always gives it a really nice flavor. Let's toss in our herbs. Our Worcestershire sauce. that mixed in there. Now it smells like the holidays. Thyme and rosemary, so good. So don't worry if the tomato paste doesn't fully incorporate, because once we put in the vegetable broth, it's all gonna just dissolve. And then once we've gotten everything in, we're gonna let it simmer for about 5 to 7 minutes. And that sauce, the sauce is gonna thicken up just a little bit. The broth and the tomato paste and the flour is gonna kind of bind everything together and make it a little creamy. Okay, now we're gonna toss in our veggie broth. Mix that up, and then we'll put in our peas and our corn. And you can substitute anything you like. If you wanna make it really holiday-ish, you can use grilled onions, you can use mushrooms as a mixer, all sorts of neat stuff you can toss into a shepherd's pie, and it's just delicious. All right, so as you can see, now there's a sauce kind of forming now that the broth is in there, and it's gonna thicken up just a little bit once we let it simmer for a bit. Put in the last few guys, and then we'll season it up with some salt and pepper. Season it, and then we'll let it sit for a few, thicken up. And you don't want to over salt because your mashed potatoes will probably already be really well flavored, so just keep that in mind, especially if you're using mashed potatoes that are pre-made. If you made them with garlic and rosemary and salt, they're already really nice and flavored. All right. So once this is mixed in, we're just gonna turn down the heat to low and let it simmer for about 5 to 7 minutes. Let that sauce thicken up just a tad. Don't worry if it doesn't get really thick or creamy. That's not what we're going for. Just to get nice and bound together. All right. So we're gonna put it on low, and we're gonna cover it and let it simmer for just a few. Okay, so our filling is ready to go. So we've got a lasagna dish. About an 8 by 8 is perfect. You can use a round casserole dish, you can use a brownie pan, whatever you like, but something that's deep enough so that you can layer the filling and then the mashed potatoes. So we're gonna just layer it in. You can be a little messy and then just smooth it out afterwards. And then the fun part is putting the mashed potatoes on top. There is a little trick to it. So we'll get all that good stuff in there. All right, so now it's time to put in the mashed potatoes, but make sure you just make this nice and level so that there's not one side that's higher than the other. And we're gonna seal the edges. We're gonna do the same thing with the mashed potatoes because you want the mashed potatoes to kind of seal the edges so that it doesn't bubble up. It's okay if some of the sauce bubbles up, but it just looks so nice when you have like this nice presentation of mashed potatoes. All right, so we're just gonna have fun tossing this stuff on here, and then you can smooth it out. So put big helpings on there so that you can just smooth the top layer instead of kind of swirling it around. So big helpings. This is also fun to do with kids because you can just have them just throw big spoonfuls of mashed potatoes on it. And again, you want to get those corners so that it seals in all the juices and it doesn't come out on the top of the mashed potatoes. All right, this guy is just about done. Making sure all my edges are filled. Flatten it out. Looks like it needs a tiny bit to be level in that corner. And we have our oven preheated at 350. And all we're gonna do is let this bake up until the potatoes on the top are nice and golden brown. And that takes about 25 minutes. Time to bake. Okie doke, our shepherd's pie is ready. We let it cool for a little bit. You can serve it piping hot, but I don't want anyone to burn their mouth, so I let it cool a little bit. Plus it lets the potatoes kind of settle down. As you can see, it's nice and crispy and golden brown. The potatoes are. A little bit of the sauce bubbled up. That's all right. It just makes it pretty. So we're gonna serve some up so you can see how nice it looks once you've gotten it out. And it's shepherd's pie. It's not like lasagna or anything like that, so it can be a little messy to get out, but we will do our best. But that's kind of the fun part of shepherd's pie. All right, so I've got my piece of shepherd's pie. I'm gonna go dig in. But if you like this recipe, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, comments, or any photos that you'd like to share of your versions of shepherd's pie, put them down in the comments below.
Thanks for watching the video. To watch the next one, click right here. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here.